So I'm doing some more work on my GP1800 2020. I made a couple of these videos on how to save money and do easy upgrades, and I decided to do the ribbon delete. Originally, I had ordered the kit from Riva, but it's back ordered for 2 or 3 months. I just want to get the ski out on the water. I figured I'm just going to try to do it without the kit and just get my money back. Something to note, this is for the 2019 and up GP1800Rs. The older ones, the ribbon just could be removed and then you could just put a ring in it that Riva sells and it's easy. The newer ones, not sure on the year, I know 2020 and up, maybe 2019, those ones the ribbon is cast into the intake, so there's no way to get it out without doing some sort of cutting. Now after getting the intake manifold out and looking at it, you don't really need the kit. So I figured if I'm gonna do it, you can do it for yourself and save yourself 150 bucks. Just like anything else, if you don't trust me, you don't wanna do it this way, go ahead, spend your money. I'm not telling you what to do with it. I'm just giving you a different option than what's on Riva. So I'll show you what I did here. I got the intake manifold out, plenty of videos on how to do that, but it's pretty straightforward. You just take the fuel rail off, take the injectors out, take all the bolts off the intake manifold, take the 2 off the bottom bracket, take the hose off the throttle body. Once it comes out, take the throttle body out. Now, I got everything off of this because when you start getting rid of this ribbon, you're gonna get a bunch of metal shavings all over everything. So I took the injectors out, I pulled the sensors out, I pulled all the O-rings out of just to get them out of my way, and I'm just gonna clean the whole thing when I'm done. And you can see I disconnected the map sensor as well because I didn't want to get dust down this hole into the map sensor. So all you gotta do, this is gonna look like a hack job, but you can do this any way you want it. But inside here, when you take this off, you'll see the ribbon fitted in here. It's gonna be fitted in there, and there's gonna be this rubber gasket around it. What really bothered me is that I was able to just with my bare finger, with a little bit of force, push straight down and pop the ribbon down into the intake manifold without any tools. And I've even seen videos of this rubber gasket coming loose, getting sucked into the intake, and one specifically bent a valve. So to get this out, I started by, the intake ribbon's right there in this hole, in here like this. You can see it's all hacked up, but it's fine. All I did was I started just in the center or slightly off center, doesn't matter. I started with like you can use whatever size drill bit you got or whatever you want. Took a 1/4 inch drill bit and I just drilled a pilot hole straight through it. Next thing I did was I put a 1/2 inch drill bit on, drilled a hole straight down through it. So then I had right in the center of this ribbon, or kind of centered, it's slightly off centered, I had a hole drilled through it. With the hole drilled straight in the center of it, I took where the ribbon was in here like this, I spun it to the side while it was stuck in there because it's molded inside the intake manifold so you can't get it out. Spun it to the side like this, so it was sitting inside there like that. I grabbed it with a pair of vice grips, so just like this, clamped them on. So while I held it, I just took my 1/2 inch drill bit again and just drilled straight through sideways, long ways. It's not hard to drill through this because it's just kind of thin sheet metal, so I drilled straight through. So then I had a hole in the center right here, a hole going straight through it, and you can see I had a hole going straight down that way. Now, when I had a hole going straight down that way and straight down that way, I just had 4 little pieces right here. All I had to do was just kind of maneuver it around, and I took some tin snips. All I had to do, I just had to snip, 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 and snip, and then this basically just split in half. I tried a couple different ways to do this at first. I tried to use a hacksaw blade and just kind of shimmy down in there. Just wasn't working super good. You could probably flip it to the side and get a sawzall in there and try to cut it in half. That's an option. I just didn't get that far. I have a sawzall, but I decided not to go about it that way. This seemed to work good enough, but really, if you have a pair of vice grips, a couple drill bits, and some tin snips, you can pretty much get this out. Now, the difference between the Riva kit and doing this is the Riva kit puts a hole saw in this groove that the O-ring goes into. There's a little orange O-ring that goes in here, and there's a hole saw that fits and cuts this ring out completely, and then you can just slide the ribbon straight out. And then there's a separate machined aluminum piece that fits straight down in here. The idea with that kit is that you don't end up with this little lip right here. This lip, people will say, is bad to have in your intake. This lip is not necessarily bad to have because there are plenty of lips in your intake, so intake hoses clamped on other hoses, where there's a little ridge about this size that's not affecting the velocity of the air in any real noticeable way. So really all your Riva kit is doing is taking this lip and instead of it being a sharp angle, making it smoothly transition. Now, will that create a little bit of turbulence? Possibly. Are you gonna notice it? I can almost guarantee not. However, there is another lip towards the outboard side, so the side away from the engine. There's another lip right here. You can kind of see it. I started grinding it down, but I figured I'd make this video before I finished. But there's another lip right here that is what's supposed to keep the ribbon from sliding down into the engine. It doesn't work that well. But you should grind this one down because this one is basically like a wall that the air is coming straight at and hitting. So getting rid of this is something you should do. Now, with the Riva kit, when you put the hole saw in it, you just run the hole saw straight down until it cuts that ridge off, and it works. However, what I'm doing here, it's gonna take me maybe 20 minutes, but I have one of these freaking like $6 Harbor Freight Dremels. If you have a real Dremel, good for you. But as you can see, I'm trying to do this shit cheap. I'm just gonna take this little sanding bit and I'm just gonna go through and keep working at this till this is smooth. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that sanding bit. I'm just gonna sand the corner down a little bit so that it's a nice smooth rounded taper on the way into the engine. And then I'm gonna put it back together and I'm gonna run it, and I'm not wasting my money on the Riva kit. So now that I finished trimming this out with the Dremel, I'm gonna show you what it looks like before I go to put it back in. Basically all I did was this edge right here, I just put a bevel right here. So this is like kind of a nice smooth transition. And then you can see where that lip used to be right here. All I did, ground it down with a Dremel, and I actually went up a little bit further onto the sides to take out some of the imperfections in the casting. There's like a little lips on either side. I pretty much just smoothed all this out. To clean up the marks from the Dremel, I just took a piece of 320 grit sandpaper and I just shoved it in this hole. And I just went up and down like this to sand everything nice and smooth. Not saying that that's completely necessary, because if you know anything about porting intakes, the golf ball effect is a thing. As much as you would think you want it to be perfectly smooth, the little grooves from the rough sanding isn't necessarily a bad thing. After I get this all sanded down, and you can see I got metal shavings, I got plastic everywhere. Same thing's gonna happen if you have a Riva kit. Just make sure you get this super clean. However you wanna do it is fine. You could even just take your garden hose and spray it out. You don't want any of these metal shavings in your intake. I have a parts wash. I'm just gonna run it through a parts wash before I put it back together. But nothing you can't handle on your own without any real special tools. If you have some basic hand tools in your garage and a drill and some bits, you're gonna be fine. If you need to get drill bits, these are, what I use is just the Harbor Freight titanium coated bits that are maybe 18 bucks for a set of everything you're gonna need. And then when they're all dull and destroyed for me doing dumb shit like this, I just throw them away. And that's it, it's done. I'm gonna get it all cleaned off, put it back together, and that's a finished job. Blue Loctite on the intake manifold bolts and the throttle body bolts. First pass, 7 foot-pounds, so 7 foot-pounds, work your way around. Second pass, 15 foot-pounds. Circle, work your way around. If you don't have a torque wrench, again, Harbor Freight, they're like $8. If not, just snug them up, they'll be fine. Don't over tighten them. So if this helps you out, leave a like. And hopefully next time I come up with something to do cheap, help you save money, I'll post it up online. See ya.